Hi, this is Mending Mahogany. Thanks for tuning into my channel. I hope you are doing well. Tonight is going to be a different type of video. I'm going to have a story time. And this story is about how I was on my way to get an abortion, but God. That's right, but God. So this stands out in my mind because I was a 19-year-old girl who found herself pregnant. And let me give you a backdrop. I was brought up in the church. I knew God's plan. I knew that God wanted us to wait until marriage to have sex, but I wasn't following God's ways. I was 19. I had my own spot. I had a man. And, I was fornicating, basically. I was sleeping with my boyfriend. I didn't have my mother to stop me, to tell me, no, I can't, because I had my own place. And I thought I was grown. So I found myself 19 years old and pregnant, and I was alone. He decided that he did not want to be a father. So I found myself in a situation. And I figured, you know what, I'm going to take care of this on my own. I'm just going to go down to the abortion clinic and see what they're saying. I really wouldn't allow myself to really think that that's what I was contemplating on doing. Now listen, if you've had an abortion, there's no judgment. I'm telling you my story. This is my story. If you had an abortion, it's no judgment against you. God is a forgiving God. This is not about judging people or pointing fingers. I'm telling you my story. So I'm on my way to this abortion clinic, and I can see this clear as day, and I believe it stands out in my mind because I knew it was when God intervened. It was when God stepped in and said, no, daughter. It's when God intervened. So I'm on my way to the abortion clinic, and my car breaks down. Yeah, my little hoopty broke down. And I can envision this like it's yesterday. My son is 30 now. But this stands out in my mind because I know that God stepped in. So I'm waiting for the mechanic to come. And I'm sitting in the car. And I keep looking back because, he's coming from the opposite way. I'm expecting him to come from the opposite way. And as I am waiting, that is the first time that I feel my son kick. Now, I work at a gynecologist obstetrician. So if you've carried a baby, you know that usually you might feel flutters around 3 months, but really around the 4th or 5th month, that might be when you feel, like that kick or that movement. And sitting there waiting for the mechanic, that was the first time that I felt that. And I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that that was God saying, no, daughter. No, daughter. Now, did my life turn around, and did I all of a sudden have this epiphany? After this epiphany, me and my man got back together and we became a family and lived happily ever after? No, that's not what happened. I went through my pregnancy alone. It was difficult. It wasn't a good time. I did not enjoy being pregnant because that wasn't the way that I envisioned it. I did not envision me being 19 pregnant and dumped by my man. Because, when you laying up and you're doing all sorts of things and they saying all types of things, but baby, when the rubber meets the road, you find out who is there and who will stand beside you. So yes, I went through that pregnancy alone. I mean, I had my girls with me, I was 19, so I still had friends, but I found myself isolated because I couldn't do what they could do. I couldn't hang out anymore. I couldn't go to clubs anymore. I couldn't, drink and do all the things that I was doing because I was pregnant. And I went through that pregnancy alone. I went through the delivery. He was not there. I had a friend come in with me. I had a C-section. And he wasn't there. Even after the baby was born, he wasn't there. And I recall him coming to see the baby about 3 months old. And when he came to see his son, he rolls up with another girl in the car. I cried. I remember that day I cried. I couldn't believe it. I was so heartbroken. How dare you come to my house to see your child for the first time? You got a female in the car? And that car was clean. Car was clean. It was a summer day in August. Car was clean, rims clean. He pulled up bumping the music, and I didn't know that he was coming with somebody. Girl, when I put my head out that door and I seen, my heart dropped, because I was still holding on to the fact that things were going to work out, but God had other plans. And do you know that when God intervenes in your life and you think that your heartbreak, you will never recover, and you wish your life had went a certain way and it doesn't go that way? But now, all these many years later, I say, God, I thank you that you didn't give me what I wanted. Because as the years progressed, I seen the type of man that I would have had. I seen the type of husband that I would have had. And God had better for me. My son is 30 now, so over the years, I done seen a lot of different women. And he done had a lot of different kids. He done had a lot of different baby mamas. He done had a lot of marriages, and he had a lot of divorces. But God knew what he was doing when he stepped in and said, I have a better plan. Did I realize what he was doing? Oh, no, I didn't realize it. But God had blessed me with somebody later on down the line. Yeah, I had to go through the hard knocks of being a single mother. I remember not having a car, having to push a stroller. And I'm going way back. That's when you had payphones. That's when you had beepers. Sky Pages. I would be blowing up his beeper and I would not get no response. And I found myself walking to the payphone, pushing my baby in a stroller. And I was disappointed in myself because I knew that that's not what God had for me. But God has a way of teaching us from our mistakes. God has a way, they say, of turning our lemons into lemonade. And all these many years later, I can't say nothing but thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord, for not giving me what I wanted. Thank you, Lord, for stepping in and helping me when I was about to make a decision that would have altered my life drastically. Now, when I met my husband, I'll be celebrating 25 years of marriage this year. And when I met my husband, by the time I met my husband, I was a Christian. I grew up in church. I knew church. My family built a church. I knew church. But sometimes when you know church, you think that means you know God. You don't know God unless you have a personal relationship with him. Yes, I went to church. Yes, I did. I come from a long line of pastors and ministers. And as I said, my family actually built a church, broke ground, built a church, but I didn't have a relationship. And it wasn't until January 27th, 1997 that I surrendered and said, you know what, God, I can't do this. I surrender to you. I give my life to you. And I do not regret it. Because I see people that I used to club with and get high with and run the streets with. And the enemy has done a number on them. So God snatched me from the hand of the enemy, and I thank him for it. But when I met my husband, I had become a Christian. So, I was not, having sex, this whole thing with dating was different because I wasn't trying to date the world's way. You can't be a Christian and do Netflix and chill. That's just not going to work because the flesh is weak. Sooner or later, stuff is going to go somewhere where you don't want it to go. So I was determined not to do that. And my husband said, you know how I knew you was the one? Every time we went somewhere, you had your son with you. Every date we went on, you had your son with you. And I knew from the mother you were that you would be a good wife to me. Now, I'm thinking, the young me, the 19-year-old me is thinking this child is just a hindrance to what I want to do. But later on down the line, my son was a catalyst. He was an instrumental part of me meeting my husband, me being with him. So I said all of that to say, God has a plan for our lives. And it's a plan that is so much better than what you could conceive for your own self. It's a plan to bring us into purpose. It is a plan to bring us into what He wants us to do in life. So that was my story time. I was on my way to the abortion clinic, but God. And you may be on your way to do what you think you should do, and that may not be an abortion clinic. But you may be at a crossroads where you are making a major decision in your life. And I would just ask you just to stop and be still. Because it was in the stillness of that car waiting for the mechanic that God moved. It was in the stillness. So if you're thinking of making a major decision in your life, it may be to marry somebody, it may be to take a job cross country, it may be to end a relationship, it could be anything. But if it's an important decision, I would ask you to be still and listen. Sometimes we look for God to, speak like, my child, don't do that. But sometimes He just speaks because you don't have peace about a situation. That's a major indication. If you don't have peace about a situation, that's a indication that maybe that's not the right decision. So remember that God speaks in the stillness. But sometimes we have so much noise going on around us. And I think, what would have happened if I was on my way to the abortion clinic and I had one of my girls in the car? We might have been listening to music, waiting for the mechanic, talking. I wouldn't have had that still time of just waiting. I'm not saying that if my child would have kicked that, I don't know what would have happened, but I believe that it was purpose for me to be by myself in that car. I believe that truly. And sometimes things happen in our life and it leaves an imprint. And that situation left an imprint in my heart that I knew it was nobody but God speaking to me. So again, get still and quiet before God and let Him speak. And He'll give you the direction that you need. I don't know who that's for. I don't know who that's for. I don't know who's going to watch this video. I have no idea. But I just feel God saying, just get in a quiet place and let me speak to your heart. And you will know the direction that you need to take. This is Mending Mahogany. Thanks for tuning into my channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. Have a good night.